Buenas tardes, año 5 y año 6. Good afternoon, years 5 and 6. I hope that you are all keeping safe and keeping well and that you've had a great week, whether you've been doing all your online learning at home and also to those children in school. So this is a little bit of a different lesson, and it's more of a cultural lesson about the culture in countries where they speak Spanish. And it's a mixture of art, DT and Spanish. So I really hope that you enjoy it. Yes, you will see how to make some churros, which is what I'm eating there and enjoying in the picture. And learning about culture is a really, really important part of learning any language. And for me, it's one of the main reasons why I wanted to study languages and teach languages, because the cultural part is in some ways the most interesting, okay? So it's just as important as learning about all the words and the phrases and more of the things that we do in school. Okay, let's get started. Okay, hopefully those children that have sent in their work saw their shout-outs in the whole school shout-out video, but I just want to say a big well done and thank you again to all those children in years 5 and 6 who have sent me Spanish work over the last couple of weeks. And this piece from Anastasia came in just after I'd made the video, so I just wanted to show it to you all. Look at the amazing effort she's put into creating her map, and also Anastasia wrote a brilliant script for her weather forecast. Qué bonito, how lovely. Okay, so what you will need is definitely some paper and a pen or a pencil. And then I'm going to give you 3 different options for your main activity. So if you decide to do activity 1, which is making some churros, you will need some ingredients and some equipment that I will explain later. But the main thing, the most important, is an adult to help you, okay? If you decide to do the art activity, which is designing a tile, you would need paper or card and some kind of colouring equipment. And if you decide that you would prefer to do a more writing-based activity, then you would need to do some research for your fact file. But listen to all the different options and what's involved first before you decide what you want to do, okay? Ok, hoy es viernes, el 26 de junio 2020. ¿Puedes repetir? Can you repeat that? My go and then your go. Viernes, el 26 de junio 2020. Well done. So we're not just looking at Spanish culture, we're looking at Hispanic culture. And what that means is the culture in the countries where Spanish is spoken, because there are over 20 countries where Spanish is the main language. And we've already done a little bit of that in school with things like learning about the Day of the Dead, etc. So whilst I'm reading through the success criteria, please can you copy down the date and the LI. Success criteria. I can explain what culture means and give some examples. I understand what intercultural understanding is and why it's important. I can participate in an activity linked to Hispanic culture. So if you need some more time, just pause the video. Okay, let's get our thinking caps on. What does the word culture actually mean? Pause the video and write down what you think the word culture means. Okay, so culture is basically the ideas, the customs and the social behaviour of a particular people or society. In simple terms, we could say it describes the way that people live. And all those things on the petals of the flower come into culture, okay? It could be people's beliefs, the languages that they speak, their customs, their rituals, their behavior, their faith, religion, things like festivals, the food that they eat, the type of art, drama and music that they participate in, and their attitudes, okay? So lots and lots of different things come into culture. Okay, so why is culture important? And there's a little quote down there by Marcus Garvey. A people without knowledge of their past history, origin and culture is like a tree without roots. So just think about that for a moment, and then we're going to look at lots of other reasons why culture is important. Culture helps people connect with each other and build communities. So it's not necessarily about people having the same culture, but it might be having the same kind of values. So for example, at Grange, we have built a community that we are all part of. The teachers and the staff that work in the school, the children and your families, because we share similar values, even though we have different religions, different languages and so on. Our common rules and the things that are important to us helps us to connect and build our great Grange community. Traditional culture of a community keeps us bonded forever. So there are things in everybody's culture that are traditional to them. So for some people it might be a particular festival, for others it might be the way they pray, and that helps you to keep bonded with your family, with your friends, etc. Culture helps us understand our ancestral values and gives us the very meaning of life. So this is more about looking at your maybe your grandparents and older relatives, because it helps us understand where we come from, and it helps us to understand why certain things are important in our lives and in the lives of our ancestors. If we didn't have any idea of where our ancestors came from, it's harder to understand the culture. Every culture has its share of knowledge and beliefs which makes us better human beings. It makes us responsible people who can coexist with each other in a harmonious society. Okay, so it's important to have some kind of perhaps rules or beliefs, but also at the same time respect that other people might have different rules and beliefs, and that's okay. We have to find a way to live together, to coexist without lots of tension. When we study about the roots of our cultures and follow them accordingly, we get to know about ourselves much better. Studying about our cultures and of the entire world is extremely interesting, and it sure gives us some enlightenment about ancient times. So learning about culture is a lot of history, okay? It is fascinating learning about why people do certain things, where a particular culture came from, and I find that part of language learning really, really interesting. Every culture teaches us to coexist with all the cultures in the world. Cultural teachings always aim for peace. They teach us to live compassionately and respectfully with everyone so that peace prevails. Okay, this is really important because sometimes peoples have different religions, and sometimes that has caused problems, wars, etc. But when you look at the actual teachings in the cultural books, etc., it actually teaches us to live harmoniously, respectfully with everybody. It's interesting to be with people of different cultures. it would be quite boring if there was only one culture or one religion in the world. Now, apart from understanding our own culture, where we come from, it is really, really important to learn about different cultures. It's really fun, it's really interesting, and it is so important. So when I talk about intercultural understanding, it's basically understanding what different cultures represent, what kind of festivals they have, what kind of food they eat, so that you understand why people live in a certain way. And this is more important than ever because there are so many different cultures, and nowadays, compared to, say, 50 years ago, people travel a lot more, and people go and live in different countries and visit different countries. So we're all in contact with lots of different cultures. And if we don't make an effort to learn about other cultures, misunderstandings can happen, tensions can rise, and then that leads to big problems, okay? So if we understand, for example, why certain people don't eat meat, or why certain people pray 5 times a day, etc., it really helps us to strengthen our community and all the links. Okay, so I've put some quotations on this slide just to kind of remind you all how lovely and how important diversity is. One of my favourite days at Grange is when we have International Day. It's really special because it allows all our members of the school community to express your own cultures. It might be by what you're wearing, or when we celebrate all your home languages. And in those days, we also get the chance to learn about each other's cultures. So the diversity in our school is part of what makes it such a special place. Okay, so those quotations there: the beauty of the world lies in the diversity of its people. Together is where the magic lives. Different individuals valuing each other regardless of skin, intellect, talents, or years. Now, let's have a look at a map of Spanish-speaking countries, because remember, although the Spanish language comes from Spain, the Spanish people ruled many other countries, mainly in South America and Central America, and therefore those countries took on the Spanish language. But at the same time, a lot of them also have their own languages and their own cultures. So when you go to these countries, if you ever get the chance, you will kind of see a mixture in the buildings, in the artwork, in the food, of Spanish culture and the native cultures, and it makes them really interesting places to go. So, what is Hispanic? So Hispanic culture is what we call the culture of the persons related to Spanish language, Spanish culture, or to Spain in general. So Mexican culture, Peruvian culture is all linked in some way to Spanish culture. So this happened because the Spanish Empire ruled all these countries. They colonized them a long time ago, and it was countries in the Americas, but also some in the Asia Pacific region and in Africa. So in our lessons in school, I have tried, not as much as I would like, to introduce you all to little bits of culture from some of the other countries outside of Spain. So we have Yolanda, our little doll. Do you remember which country she comes from? Muy bien, she comes from Peru. We've also looked a bit at Mexican culture, and I know lots of you have watched the film Coco about the Day of the Dead tradition, which originates in Mexico but is also celebrated in other Spanish-speaking countries. Okay, So, can you think of anything else that we might have done in school that has taught you about Spanish speaking countries, or maybe not in school? Maybe you've learnt something outside of school. Note it down on your piece of paper. Okay, so one of the most yummy things that I have ever eaten in Spain is churros. And sometimes we think something is from a particular culture, but actually when you look at the history, it's a mixture of different cultures that has created a tradition. And let's think about the churro. So it says you have to start by asking yourself, what exactly is a churro and how did it originate? When it comes to the history of the churros, now the churros, remember, are the kind of fried donuts often eaten or dipped in hot chocolate. It's complicated. Some historians say that the Spanish churro is a descendant, so kind of comes from, a Chinese pastry called the youtiao. I'm not sure if I've said that properly, but you've got a picture down there next to the Chinese flag. The Chinese pastry fried in oil and looks like two long conjoined, that means kind of joint together, breadsticks. It's not dressed in sugar or dunked in chocolate like the Spanish version or the Mexican version. One idea is that Portuguese explorers brought the youtiao back to Iberia. So Iberia is the kind of name for Spain and Portugal combined, where it then took on its distinct star-edge shape and sweetness as the pastry gained popularity throughout Spain. That's one theory. Okay, so another theory about where the churros came from is that it was an invention of the Spanish shepherds who didn't have enough fresh bread, so they fried a dough made of flour, water and salt. And the shape is supposed to come from the rigid horns of the native churra sheep. And you can see the kind of shape in the picture there. So the history of the churro is a little bit confused, but we do know when the chocolate became the kind of accompaniment, the thing that you eat the churros with. It says churros were introduced to South America during the Spanish Inquisition in the 1500s, and around that same time the Spanish returned to Europe with cacao or cocoa, which they sweetened with sugarcane to make the thick hot chocolate that's perfect for dunking the churros. And churros is very, very popular today in Spain and in other countries. And in Madrid, there is a place called the Chocolateria San Ginés, and it's very famous. Opened in 1894, and it's open 24 hours a day for people that really want to have churros con chocolate. I haven't been to that one, but I have been to a different one in Spain, and the churros are pretty amazing. So, this is activity option 1. Now, if you want to try and make some churros, or just learn a bit more about how they're made, there are lots of recipes online. It is super, super important though, if you do decide to make them, you must have an adult to help you, okay? Because there is deep frying involved, and I do not want any of you to try that by yourselves and get burnt or get injured, okay? I'm going to show you my version, and when it comes to cooking, I have to admit I am a bit of a cheat and I like to make things simple. So, a few months ago when they had a Spanish week at the Lidl supermarket, I bought some frozen churros, and a couple of days ago I had a go at making them, and there's a short video clip coming up. Okay, so just remember this is an option. You do not have to do this. This was just to show you if it is something that you're interested in. The second option is to do with some tile art. Okay, now whenever I've been to Spain, especially the south part of Spain, I always sort of get really interested in the tiles that are on lots and lots of the outside areas, like on staircases, water fountains, etc. And I've learnt that there is a place called Talavera, not too far away from Madrid. It's a city, una ciudad, in central Spain, and it's been known since the 15th century for its creative patterns in ceramics. That means kind of pottery. Traditionally, they're hand painted, and no two tiles, losas, are ever the same. So the full name of the town is Talavera de la Reina, which Reina means the queen, okay? And you can see in that picture on the top right, the whole thing is actually made of tiles, ceramic tiles that have been painted. And there's other pictures of tiles down there as well. Here are also some more designs. So the two larger pictures on the screen are ones that I took in a place called Granada. And there's a famous Islamic palace there that you might have heard of called the Alhambra. It's amazing, and lots of Islamic artwork, geometric shapes and tile art there, okay? Sometimes this kind of tile work is called azulejos. Now remember, azul is the colour blue, and in lots of parts of Spain and Portugal you will see this kind of artwork. But there's also some Talavera tiles that come from Mexico, another Spanish-speaking country. So some more there, and you can tell that these have been hand painted, okay? So if you fancy, you could try and make your own Talavera tile. You'll need an A4 sheet of thin card, una cartulina, a pair of safety scissors, tijeras, some coloured pencils, lápices de colores, or felt tips, or some paint. And if you go to the Grange website, the online learning page, and you click on the Spanish tab, which is just kind of a little bit below the year 5 and 6 tabs, I've put a template there that you could print off if you have access to a printer, and you could colour in that template. If you don't have access to a printer, please don't worry. Create your own design on paper or on card, or even if you have a blank tile at home. You can make it traditional or modern. So traditional designs are the ones I've already shown you. But if you've got an idea maybe of something to do with the school or something to do with Spanish, maybe put your favourite Spanish word in there, or something to do with the time that we've all been living through, I don't know, maybe involving a rainbow, please be really creative, okay? I want to see your wonderful creativity. So it says print out, imprimir the template, plantilla, onto an A4 sheet of paper or thin card. Colour in, colorear the tile using lots of different colours, and you're going to see an example in a minute. So this is what I did, just using that template. You've got the colours down there, so you might want to make a list of the Spanish colours that you've used. Now, if you're still feeling like, don't really feel like making the churros, not really sure about doing the tile art, there's one other activity that you might want to choose. So this one is making a fact file about the culture of any Spanish-speaking country. I want you to focus on culture, okay? So all the things that we've talked about already. There's your list of countries, and present your fact file nicely, take a picture of it and send to me. So, whichever activity you choose, it's totally fine. Show me what you've been doing with pictures. Spanish@grange.harrow.sch.uk is the email address. Stay safe, stay well, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Adios, years 5 and 6.